Going on this Tuesday morning as we take a live look at a quiet and dark Midtown Manhattan. 5 o'clock on the East Coast. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Jillian Neely.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for waking up with us. Early this morning, straight to our top story, President Trump doubling down, vowing to build the wall after a Border Patrol agent was brutally murdered.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott stepping up the hunt for the killers, offering a $20,000 reward. Griff Jenkins is live in our nation's capital with the brand new details. Griff?
Good morning, Jillian and Rob. The FBI isn't saying exactly what happened Saturday night near the border in West Texas that left Border Patrol agent Rogelio Martinez dead and his partner critically injured. In a statement that is thin on details, the FBI says after being located at approximately 11:20 p.m. in the Big Bend sector near Van Horn, quote, both agents sustained traumatic head injuries along with other miscellaneous physical injuries such as broken bones. This as President Trump reacted to the tragic news, offering condolences to the agents' families and vowing to secure the border.
As you heard, we lost a Border Patrol officer. We're going to have the wall. It's part of what we're doing. We need it. That's rough territory. That's where the drugs are coming in. A lot of things are happening along the border, the southern border, and we're going to straighten it out.
And while the FBI isn't detailing the incident, Border Patrol union officials say they believe the agents were ambushed and attacked by illegals or drug traffickers while responding to a call.
We believe that Border Patrol agent Rogelio Martinez was ambushed by individuals. He was then violently beaten, and thank God his partner survived, who was also gravely, badly injured. But it's a very, very violent environment on the border, and I think Americans have had enough.
Governor Abbott, as you mentioned, Jillian, announcing a $20,000 reward over Twitter, asking for the public's help to catch this killer. Agent Martinez was 36 years old and had been an agent for about 4 years. He is the second Border Patrol agent to have died this year in the line of duty and the 39th since 2003. Officials may have a press conference later today in El Paso. Guys?
Tough story, sad story. Thanks, Griff.
All right, a surprise meeting overnight between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Syrian counterpart, Bashar al-Assad. The rare sit-down happening in Russia, kicking off a diplomatic drive to end Syria's bloody civil war and the mess that country has become. The two world leaders even hugged it out. Putin vowing the fight against ISIS in Syria is close to being over. He plans on calling President Trump to update him about that talk. Vladimir Putin, that is, plans to call the president later this week.
A major legal defeat for the Trump administration in its battle against sanctuary cities. A federal judge permanently blocking the president's executive order to cut funding from cities that limit cooperation with immigration authorities, calling it unconstitutional on its face. In his ruling, the judge says the president cannot set new conditions on spending already approved by Congress. No response yet from the White House.
All right, a brand new bombshell in the Uranium One scandal. The Hill reporting that the secret FBI informant saved years of evidence alleging proof of corruption with the Obama administration and this Russian-owned uranium mining company. The website looking through 5,000 pages of documents focused on this controversial deal, which gave Russia control of about 20% of the United States uranium market when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. The Hill also calling out the Obama administration's role in all this.
Without a shadow of a doubt, we knew that Russia was trying to gain a corner on the U.S. market, get a strong hold on our uranium, and without a doubt, we knew they were using political levers to try to get their way here. We're talking about control, like this document says. They're trying to gain control of our market. That has to be a national security interest that should have been raised to CFIUS.
It is a major accusation here. These memos go against recent DOJ comments claiming the informant's work will not shed light on this controversial deal.
Brand new details in the Charlie Rose sexual harassment scandal. CBS and PBS suspending the anchor after the bombshell report. The Washington Post citing 8 female employees accusing Rose of unwanted sexual advances, walking around them while he was naked, lewd phone calls, and groping. In a statement to the Post, Rose apologized, in part saying, quote, he behaved insensitively at times.
All right, happening right now, Tampa police ramping up the search for a possible serial killer and offering $110,000 for information that leads to an arrest.
Fox News contributor and former homicide detective Ted Williams rode along with police as they canvassed the crime scene, searching for clues that could lead to the killer. He joins us now live. Ted, what did you learn when you rode around with police?
Hi, guys. Well, let me just say it's been a very eerie calm here in Tampa Bay last night. I rode around with Sergeant Bottomer, and excellent interview. Let's take a listen. You've got this incident that's going on here where 4 individuals have been found dead in your city. How does that affect you as a sergeant in doing your work here?
It puts a lot of added stress on not only the squad, but the department and city as a whole. We've never had anything like this before in the city of Tampa in my 25 years here, where we've had a serial killer on the loose.
One thing that is eerie about these streets as I look ahead and around us is that there are no people. There's nobody out here.
It's like 3 o'clock in the morning here. It's like everybody's asleep and no one's up. I mean, it's like everybody's just in bed, asleep, and that's it. This is not normal for 8 o'clock at night to have everybody inside. I mean, we haven't even seen that many cars driving down the street. Right now, everybody's on alert, and they're staying indoors.
And this investigation continues here in Tampa Bay.
Ted, police have up to the reward in this case, just proving the point that it's so important that if anybody in that area knows anything, you have to speak up, right?
Absolutely. If you see something, you need to say something to bring this crime spree to some conclusion.
All right, Ted Williams, thank you very much for that update.
Okay, we are going to switch gears here dramatically, and we are going to talk about an interview that occurred last night on CNN between anchor Chris Cuomo and LeVar Ball, who is the dad of LeAngelo Ball, one of the 3 that was caught in China shoplifting that the president had to help to break out of China and get back to the United States.
Yeah, if you listen to the interview in its entirety, it was actually hard to listen to certain points of it. I don't know if you felt that way. But take a listen to what, in part anyway, LeVar Ball had to say in his interview with Chris Cuomo last night.
Why won't you say thank you to the president?
It doesn't make, well, if somebody does something for you, then you say thank you.
Somebody did something for you.
That's your opinion that he's done for me? Okay. I would say thank you if he would have put him on his plane and took him home. If I was going to thank somebody, I'd probably thank President Xi. Let him do his political affairs and let me handle my son, and let's just stay in our lane.
You know, part of the interview, LeVar Ball went on to say, you know, we're not even talking about these other 2 guys. Why are we focusing on my son? And Chris Cuomo says, we're talking about your son because of you.
Yeah. And credit where credit is due. Cuomo did a nice job trying to handle this gentleman on TV, a guy that did not want to listen and just wanted to talk nonsense for about 10 minutes. And he had a lot of time up there. He didn't have very much to say to defend himself. He kind of just tried to get around it any way he could.
Yeah.
And it was such a frustrating interview to hear and have to listen to because it made you want to pull your hair out. You imagine having to talk to this guy, and it was so nonsensical.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And you talk about frustrating. At one point, Chris Cuomo asked LeVar Ball, you know, if the president invited you to the White House, would you thank him? And LeVar Ball said, I would thank him for inviting me to the White House.
Yeah, I think he knows he's wrong, and he's trying to defend it any way he can. And, I mean, at the end of the day, his kid was looking at some time in prison. You know, China is a communist nation. They don't have the same rules here. I mean, it's just not as liberal with a lot of the things that they do there, especially with crime. So, I mean, his son could have lost his chance at a basketball career over this thing. The president stepped in and did something really special. And he didn't want to talk about it.
Well, on Hannity, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, went on to say that he's embarrassed for LeVar Ball. Take a listen to that.
I think the people should be pretty irritated that these guys who have a privileged life, have a privileged future, have the chance for a multi-million-dollar career in the NBA, are out here, you know, embarrassing America, looking stupid, and doing something that's totally dumb. And I'm embarrassed for that father that he didn't have the decency to say, thank you, Mr. President. I got to talk to my kid. I clearly didn't quite certainly get things across to him. I just think this is a sign of what's sick about America, that people don't take responsibility. They don't take accountability. Now, probably Trump shouldn't have said I should have left him in jail. What he ought to say is, I wish that father had been there in jail. Let the kids come home. It's the father who's being ungrateful.
Well, there you have it. And that is a good point. I mean, the president, I think, unfairly picked on the kids who did thank him. And you know, the father was really was the issue here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we want to know what you think about this topic as a whole. Make sure you send us an email, friendsfirst@foxnews.com. You can send us a message on Facebook or Twitter as well. This has certainly been taking up a lot of the attention.
Yeah,
the last
it was a very interesting interview. Yeah.
All right, so the holidays are in full swing at the White House.
All right, First Lady Melania Trump and her son Barron welcoming this year's Christmas tree. The Chapman family of Wisconsin presenting them with this 19.5-foot tall balsam fir.
The First Lady tweeting her thanks, saying, quote, "Thank you, Silent Night Evergreens in Wisconsin, for our beautiful tree. President of the United States, Barron, and I are excited for Christmas in our new home."
Yeah, very
Wonderful.
cool. That tree had a long trek, too.
Yeah.
12 minutes after the hour, no cops allowed. A New York college campus trying to ban police. Former NYPD detective is going to be here. He wants to know what happens when those students actually need the NYPD's help. Very interesting, right? He joins us live next.
Bah humbug. Santa Claus told to get back on his sleigh and get out of town. Why Kris Kringle was just booted from Britain. Good morning and welcome back. How about this? A student-led petition at Brooklyn College now looking to ban police officers from their campus because they say students feel, quote, triggered when they see cops.
All right, this after the college made it known that they'd like officers not to use their main restrooms on the campus, but instead to use a very rundown facility you see here on the outskirts of campus.
Here to react is a former NYPD Lieutenant Dr. Darren Porcher. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So what was your initial reaction when you read this article, when you heard that the students are the ones who don't want police on campus?
It was disdain and disgust. And one of the things that I attribute, because I'm a college professor, I'm a professor at Pace University, and the first thing that I thought of, why didn't the faculty step in and move this to the side? That's something that the faculty could have done. That doesn't appear to be the case here.
What's happening with, this generation? Obviously, this does not speak to every student at Brooklyn College.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of great kids there. But what is going through the minds of people that are saying that they want absolutely nothing to do with police officers? I mean, can people not understand what this country would look like if we didn't have police officers on the streets? I mean, some of these neighborhoods would erupt in violence.
Absolutely. We think about a movie, The Purge, so to speak, and it would be a social travesty. There should be a symbiotic relationship between police and community. The two are conjoined together as the same. Both entities must work together to have a harmonious environment. And police do support citizens and as well as students, vice versa with students supporting police. We need to conjoin and maintain that consistent relationship. And this, unfortunately, is fracturing that relationship. The far greater percentage, I want to say the greater percentage of students do support police.
Right.
However, this is a minute component in that student population that feels that way.
It is, but, we're talking about it on national TV right now. So we have a quote here from an unidentified student, one of the students on this petition, and it says, "We do not want the NYPD on campus in any respect, even if it's just to take breaks and use the bathroom. I knew students from every background and across every major. They don't feel comfortable around cops. They just don't. It makes safe spaces feel not so safe. Your first instinct is to be scared." And apparently, the student body president, in this article anyway, blamed this whole thing on an NYPD operation that actually sent an Overcunder cop into the campus to infiltrate the school's Muslim community in search of Islamic terrorists. Is that something that, number one, is done, and number two, that these students should be afraid of?
Well, if something like that happened, I'm sure that this was an isolated incident, and we have to focus on if there was criminality in place, the officer may have targeted that specifically, but the target was not the campus. I'm not saying that that was the case, that that incident actually did occur, but just based on my background, police only target those types of issues specifically, and they move out. Generally speaking, it goes back to these students are being protected by police, and police generally want to do the right thing. And I think this is more of an aberration from this student in looking at the police targeting Islam and things to that effect, because that's not what the NYPD does. They just want to keep the environment safe.
Darren, really quickly, this is all part of the same faction. This is a far left Antifa, Black Lives Matter. This is a far left wing. Mayor de Blasio and a lot of that. Is this an indication of just how distorted the far left has become?
In many instances, one may see this as a harbinger of what's coming in the future. Yeah. I disagree. I think that by and large, a city like New York, you just have such a multicultural police department in the NYPD. You have so many members that support different aspects of the community, and I think that's what's going to be the focus. I should say those are going to be the people that centralize this issue. It's not going to be the far left students that mention things like this. Students not, the cops not using a bathroom.
I'll tell you what, if something happens on campus, they may change their mind. Dr. Darren Porcher, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back. Good morning to you. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. So let's talk about this. CNN getting slammed online after an interview goes a bit off the rails with basketball dad LeVar Ball. And I say a bit sarcastically.
Very interesting interview and about 10 minutes long, too. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7 and SiriusXM 115 here with all the fun reaction to this online.
This was like one of the most confusing interviews I've ever heard. It made my head hurt. Yikes. Okay, so let's try and paraphrase this really quickly. LeVar Ball's son, LeAngelo Ball, a UCLA basketball player, was arrested in China on shoplifting charges. Now, the elder Ball was invited to appear on CNN after he refused to thank the president for helping secure his son's release. Now, LeVar Ball has a history of making outlandish, controversial comments, and the interview quickly went off the rails. Take a listen.
You trying to make it sound like that? I'm just saying.
That's what you said.
I didn't meet Winnie face to face. I know exactly what I said, but you buffing it up like you said that you don't want to say thank you to nobody. No, come meet me like a man, shake my hand, and tell me what you've done for me.
Than that. I was trying to be much more even. I don't want to. I'm not trying to add tone to it. I know how you were trying to say it, but that's okay. I'm trying to say
with an even tone. Because that's what you do.
Chris Cuomo got some online criticism for not being able to control that interview. I don't know how you could possibly control that situation. Sports Talk says Chris never got control. He tried and he thought he did for a moment, but LeVar stayed true to LeVar. Jay on Twitter says this interview is nuts, and another tweet simply says, what an awful man and father, referring to LeVar Ball. This was about a 20-minute interview, completely confusing. Almost seems pointless, right, given this guy this big of a platform.
Definitely hard to watch.
But Rob is smiling, right?
All right, so don't hug your relatives on Thanksgiving or
the Girl
anytime?
Scouts. Yeah, they're sparking some outrage for telling parents not to force their children to give relatives a hug. So this is a quote from the Girl Scouts website. Telling your child that she owes someone a hug can set the stage for her questioning whether she owes another person any type of physical affection when they've done something nice for her later in life.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of conversation over this one. Francesca says, Lord, there will come a day when we won't be able to even look at each other. Another Twitter user says, unbelievable. Aren't groups, clubs like the Girl Scouts supposed to teach kids good, wholesome American values?
Well,
yeah, I don't know if there's I don't really even know what to say here. I don't know if hugging your aunt could ever be a bad thing.
Carly, every time you come on this show, you make my head explode. This is what you do.
Well, this is the best one.
Yeah, this one at least is easy to understand.
Speaking of an explosion, check this out from the Weather Channel. A bus pulled into the footage. This is the Georgia Dome implosion yesterday. A bus pulled into the footage at the worst time possible. Take a look at this. Can you believe that? Catherine on Twitter says, priceless. I've never seen Weather Channel footage that needed to be censored before. That's probably a first.
I was cracking up watching this yesterday. And they're like, bus, come on, bus, move.
What timing. You can't make that up.
They were probably sitting there for 2 hours.
They were sitting there for about 40 minutes, the camera guy said. Jeez Louise.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks a lot.
It is 27 minutes after the hour. President Trump designating North Korea as an official state sponsor of terror. But will the new sanctions make a difference? Our next guest says it proves America is using every tool on the table.
And White House Press Secretary Sara Huckabee Sanders tries to spread the holiday spirit, but the mainstream media still had something to say about it.
Clearly very thankful for all of you.
I am thankful for the First Amendment.
Oh, yes. We're thankful for that.
I think we all are.
Now, today, the United States is designating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism. This designation will impose further sanctions and penalties on North Korea and related persons and supports our maximum pressure campaign to isolate the murderous regime.
All right, a Fox News alert, President Trump declaring North Korea a state sponsor of terrorism and slapping this rogue nation with the highest level of sanctions possible. Here now to discuss that, Hudson Institute Senior Fellow Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
First thing we want to do is pull up exactly what North Korea did to earn this new title, and here are the list of offenses. Helped Syria build nuclear reactor, worked with Iran on missile development, and also allegations that North Korea has ties to Hamas and Hezbollah, terrorist organizations working in the Middle East. This new, I guess, whatever you would call it, you're calling them now a state sponsor of terrorism, comes with this added pressure on the country, but the pressure was already pretty tough on North Korea, right?
The pressure is already tough, and remember, the Trump administration was able to successfully get these UN Security Council resolutions passed in the summer, which are the heaviest, most biting sanctions that have ever been levied against North Korea. But this designation is important because President Bush removed the designation in 2008 as an incentive to try to convince the North Koreans that the diplomatic talks might be in its favor, and then within a year, North Korea tested another nuclear weapon. So this is, again, just to try to turn up the pressure and to dissuade other countries from doing business with North Korea. It's very difficult to explain how countries can continue doing business with a state sponsor of terrorism like North Korea.
Absolutely. Let's look at the company that they keep in this new designation: Syria, Iran, and also Sudan in North Africa. So these are three places that, and now four that are on this list. My question to you is, President Bush dropped them off the list in 2008, trying to kind of do things diplomatically. They build that bomb, like you said, they test that bomb. This has been a continuing problem with this country. There needs to be a new direction on this. Am I right about that?
You are, and that's why the Trump administration's strategy towards North Korea is to use all of the tools in our toolbox, short of military force, to exhaust all of this. This is all part of diplomacy. Diplomacy isn't just talks; it's everything short of military force. And so, the Trump administration gets a lot of criticism for using inflammatory language. The president uses inflammatory language towards North Korea, et cetera. But what he's trying to do, he's trying to change the calculation of Kim to finally get to the point where he says, enough. This is exhausting all of our finances to spend on our nuclear missile program, and it's not worth it. And so that's what he's trying to do, and to convince China also that we're serious about this and that it needs to help.
The pressure has to come from China and Russia to really cut them off, because, again, if they just say, okay, we're going to stop building nuclear weapons, they're going to do the same thing they did in 2008. So something definitely needs to change. Let's go to topic 2 here. The Obama administration. Allegations now that they misled the American people back in 2011 in regards to the danger of al-Qaeda after they had killed Osama bin Laden. And the allegation here is that the president at the time, President Obama, was trying to build up the energy for the 2012 re-election campaign and make al-Qaeda look like it wasn't really much of a threat anymore because bin Laden was dead. My question to you is, was bin Laden even a big part of that organization at that time? He was hiding in Pakistan.
He was hiding. What's important here is that, President Obama he said that his administration was going to be the most transparent in history.
Yeah.
But what the administration did, they had this enough intelligence from that raid to fill a small library, they said, but they only released just a couple dozen documents about what they found. What the administration downplayed, and this was due to infighting within the bureaucracy. Of course, you mentioned the timing is conspicuous. It's right before the re-election. It's when the president was trying to get this Iran deal at all costs through.
Right.
And what this intelligence did reveal, now that the Trump administration has finally released thousands and thousands of these documents, is it reveals that there was this connection between al-Qaeda and Iran. Much, much closer relationship. Remember, Iran is a Shia country, al-Qaeda is Sunni, and so a lot of people said that these countries couldn't cooperate, but in fact they were, because they had mutual interests.
Yeah, and that would have made the Iran deal look terrible, and at the same time you had this killing of bin Laden was a huge victory for that administration. They want that to look better. They're coming off, they have a flaccid recovery to the economy. They can't brag about that. They needed something really powerful to brag on, right? And they needed something to really make 2012 look like you got to bring me back for 4 more.
That's exactly right. And they were also trying to pull troops prematurely, I would say, out of Iraq and Afghanistan. And if you've got al-Qaeda on the rise rather than being decimated, that doesn't really fit your narrative. So all of these things went into play. I mean, it was a politicization of this intelligence, which is, what the Trump administration continues to say was going on during the Obama administration. So it really feeds into that. It gives evidence that that's actually quite true.
We're seeing politicization in all parts of government that we never knew about before. It's a lot of stuff coming out now. Rebecca, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks.
Jillian.
A man is behind bars in connection to the death of a rookie Pittsburgh officer during a traffic stop. New Kensington police arresting Tavon Harper on drug charges. They say he was driving the Jeep when the passenger and suspected cop killer jumped out and ran away. Ramel Sal Holt is accused of fatally shooting Officer Brian Shaw, who tried chasing him down. Holt's mother reportedly saying she doesn't know where her son is, but would likely peacefully turn himself in. Officer Shaw had been on the force for only about 6 months. Almost 59,000 Haitians living in the U.S. now have a year and a half to leave, the Trump administration ending their 7-year protected status. In 2010, Haitians came to the U.S. after an earthquake devastated the island. Homeland Security officials say conditions there have improved and citizens can now go back home. Some Haitians can stay if they can get legal immigration status. As tax reform pushes its way through the Senate, President Trump is already focusing on his next big move.
We're looking very strongly at welfare reform, and that'll all take place right after taxes, very soon, very shortly after taxes.
In his 2018 budget proposal, the president suggests sweeping cuts to food stamps and welfare programs by restricting those who are eligible for the programs. The president also plans to deal with infrastructure and take another try at health care reform. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders trying to get reporters into the Thanksgiving spirit, but not everyone was on board. Watch.
I want to share a few things that I'm thankful for, and I think it would be nice for you guys to do so as well before asking your questions. I'm clearly very thankful for all of you.
I am thankful for the First Amendment.
Oh, yes. We're thankful for that.
I think we all are.
So, despite the jabs from reporters, she said she was thankful for her family, her faith, and the privilege of serving President Trump and the American people. It was actually quite entertaining yesterday, I thought.
38 minutes after the hour, it's an annual tradition, but this year, the PC police throwing a flag at the Thanksgiving matchup between the Cowboys and the Redskins.
So the question is, have they finally gone too far? Super Bowl champion Burgess Owens and sports agent and lawyer Anthony Tall debate it next.
And also add airfare to the list of Black Friday deals, the pink plane that you need to put on your shopping list.
Wow.
Wow.